Good morning, everyone. In 10 days' time, the people of Scotland will choose their next government. Over the last few weeks, I've been absolutely loving getting out and about all over the country. I've never seen SNP activists working so hard. That's because we know what is at stake on May the 7th. Everywhere I go, the message is the same. People know Scotland is a great country and they are ambitious about our country's future. But right now, they are angry and they are anxious. Angry that the cost of living is so high and anxious about the uncertain world that we are living in. They want a government that understands their concerns and a government that they can trust to be on their side. Friends, if there's one thing more than any I want people to know, it is this. I get it. I share your anger and your anxiety, and that is precisely why I am standing to be your First Minister. I want to use all of my experience and everything I've learned during my years of public service to deliver the best possible future for our country, to make daily life more affordable and ease the pressure on family budgets, to continue the improvements in our NHS and make Scotland healthier, to end the scandal of child poverty in Scotland, and yes, to offer Scotland the chance of the best possible future by becoming an independent country. And I'll tell you something else. When I look at the chaos unfolding at Westminster at the moment, I feel an extra responsibility to provide trusted, reliable leadership for Scotland. 2 years ago, people trusted Labour to stand up for them and for their families. Labour repaid that trust with broken promises and with chaos. In the midst of a cost of living crisis, once again, Westminster is nowhere to be seen. Whether it's Tory chaos or Labour chaos, Westminster governments always let Scotland down, but the SNP will always be on Scotland's side. That's why you should vote SNP on the 7th of May. During this campaign, the SNP have been setting out ambitious plans for the next 5 years. For parents, a massive expansion in childcare. For first-time buyers, up to £10,000 in support. For students, a guarantee we will always protect free higher education. For people heading out to work, a guarantee we will not bring back peak rail fares, but will introduce a new £2 bus fare cap all across Scotland. And for anyone struggling to afford nutritious food, a price cap on a basket of essential food items. For our health service, plans to protect, renew and invest so we can continue driving down waiting times, and a network of GP walk-in centres across Scotland to help end the 8 AM rush. That's what you can expect from an SNP government on Scotland's side. That's what you get if you vote SNP on the 7th of May. We've set out ambitious plans for the next 5 years, and people rightly want to know we are serious about delivering them. So today, we're publishing a document setting out the actions we would take within the first 100 days of forming a government. As the 100 Days paper demonstrates, I'm determined that an SNP government will hit the ground running. When I say I want to help families with the cost of living, I mean it. Within 100 days of our First Homes Fund will be introduced, giving up to £10,000 in support to first-time buyers, and that will be up and running. Within those 100 days, our aim is that the first 2,000 families will have been helped. That's an SNP government hitting the ground running for Scotland. When I say I'm serious about making healthy food affordable for people, I mean it. I want the price cap on essential items to be in place by the end of the year. Within 100 days, we will publish the draft legislation, including proposals to be developed in partnerships with representatives of farmers and food producers to put in place the necessary mechanisms to ensure that costs are not passed on to them. That's an SNP government hitting the ground running for Scotland. When I say I want to make bus travel more affordable for people, I mean it. Bus fares are already capped at £2 in the Highlands and Islands, and we're going to extend that across all of Scotland. Within the first 100 days, we will extend the £2 bus fare cap to Glasgow, Ayrshire, Dunbartonshire, Renfrewshire, Lanarkshire and Inverclyde. Help for our commuters, help for the planet. That's an SNP government hitting the ground running for Scotland. When I say I want to continue improving healthcare in Scotland, I mean it. I announced plans for GP walk-in centres last October, and they're already popping up all over Scotland, open 7 days a week with no appointment needed. Within 100 days, we will open at least 5 more clinics and will announce the location of 14 more. In our hospitals, we'll set out additional investment to reduce waiting times and waiting lists and deliver 50,000 operations and procedures within the first 100 days. That's an SNP government hitting the ground running for Scotland. When I say I want to continue improving education in our schools, I mean it. Within 100 days, we'll begin consulting on legislation on phone-free classrooms, and will work with education authorities to update guidance to encourage a ban to take place from the start of the new school year in August. That's an SNP government hitting the ground running for Scotland. Friends, part of the anger and anxiety that people feel right now is down to us not being in control of events. People can see that Scotland has an incredible amount of energy wealth, and they rightly ask why, in this cost of living crisis, they are not feeling the benefit of that wealth. The SNP share that anger. It's one of the many reasons we are determined to give the people of Scotland the chance of a fresh start for Scotland with independence. Every day Scotland remains under Westminster control is a day of missed opportunity, a day we continue to lag behind the neighbouring countries all around Scotland that are doing better than the UK. The people of Scotland must have the chance to become an independent country as soon as is practical. So I can confirm today that on the first sitting day after the appointment of the new government, we will bring forward a vote of the Scottish Parliament to approve the development of a Section 30 order to give Scotland the power to hold an independence referendum. The Parliament chosen by the people of Scotland will have the chance to represent the democratic will of the people of Scotland. Within the first 100 days, we will publish the draft referendum bill. We propose that the question, as in 2014, is should Scotland be an independent country, yes or no, and we will convene a constitutional convention to help inform the independence referendum bill and start to shape the draft constitution for an independent Scotland. But friends, people should not have to wait for independence to reduce energy bills. We'll formally request the immediate transfer of powers to give the Scottish Parliament control of energy policy for Scotland. Don't let anyone tell you, friends, that nothing is at stake in this election. Scotland has the chance of a brighter future with independence, and we will give the people that choice. That's what you get when you vote SNP on the 7th of May. friends, there is of course a flip side to this, and this is what happens if you don't vote SNP. During this campaign, the SNP is the only party setting out a serious programme for government. Every other party has spent the campaign talking about themselves, talking about each other, and talking largely about the SNP. But they never talk about you, the people of Scotland. In this election, they are asking you to vote for an opposition to stop things happening. I'm asking people to vote for an SNP government to get things done for Scotland. That's what's at stake on the 7th of May. The SNP want to lower your bills. Other parties want to stop us. The SNP want to roll out GP walking clinics across Scotland. Other parties want to stop us. The SNP want you to have the right to decide on your future. The other parties want to stop us. The best way to ensure we can deliver for you is by electing a majority SNP government that will lock out Nigel Farage, ensure his Scottish cronies don't have any influence in the Scottish Parliament, and they will unlock the path to people choosing a fresh start with independence. For these and many more reasons, I'm asking you to give both votes to the SNP on the 7th of May. Friends, this election is hugely important. Life is tough for many people in Scotland right now, but I know that we have what it takes to get through these challenges together. A better Scotland is possible, but we have to make it happen. It's in your hands. So, on the 7th of May, vote for the best possible future for Scotland. Vote for experienced, trusted leadership. Vote for a government always on Scotland's side. On the 7th of May, make it both votes SNP. Thank you very much. Right, thank you all. We'll now move on to some questions from the media, and we'll go to broadcasters first. And can I come to Ewan Petrie of STV? Ewan.
Thank you, First Minister. First Minister, you have been in power for 19 years. Why should voters trust you to make a difference in 100 days in areas that you have had control over for almost 2 decades?
Well, there's a lot of good things have happened, Ewan, under the SNP's leadership. I take some examples, the massive expansion of early learning and childcare. So when we came to office in 2007, there was 412 hours of early learning and childcare available to 3- and 4-year-olds. Now it's 1,140 hours under the SNP. That's just one. Child poverty is falling in Scotland under the SNP. We've got economic growth that is faster than the rest of the United Kingdom. We have very high record levels of literacy and numeracy in our schools. So the SNP's delivered significant improvements in the lives of people in Scotland. And the substance of what I've said to you today is that on a number of different issues under my term in office as First Minister, direct delivery has happened as a consequence of the leadership that I've offered. GP walking clinics, I announced them in October, they are now a reality in Scotland. Peak rail fares, I announced their abolition in May of last year, they were away by September. I said I would get down long waiting times in our hospitals. Long waiting times in our hospitals for inpatients and outpatients are coming down dramatically. So that's the record of delivery that I stand on, and which I think should give people in Scotland confidence that the SNP government under my leadership will deliver for them. Can I come to Lindsay Bewes now of the BBC? Lindsay.
Thank you, First Minister. The Joseph Rowntree Foundation has been making its assessment of all of the manifestos when it comes to child poverty. They are saying that all the parties are falling well short of the action that is necessary to meet Scotland's child poverty targets. I just wonder how you respond to that assessment from the Joseph Rowntree Foundation and what you think needs to be done in the next Parliament to ensure those targets are reached.
Well, the first thing I'd say is that I obviously respect and welcome the contribution of the Joseph Rowntree Foundation. They've been an important source of advice and challenge in relation to the journey of child poverty. And as you will all know, when I was asked the question, when I became leader of the SNP, what was my biggest priority? My priority was to eradicate child poverty in Scotland, and that remains central to my aspirations for Scotland. Now, prior to the election, we set out the latest development of the Child Poverty Delivery Plan to Parliament, which includes very extensive investment in whole family support. It involves investment in early learning and childcare in a very targeted way to support families in poverty. And of course, in the election campaign, we've set out a range of other proposals to expand early learning and childcare, to support investment in housing, to recognise the importance of supporting families through a whole variety of different challenges that they face. So I think the measures are there in our policy proposals, not just what we set out to Parliament in March, but also in what's in the manifesto. But the other point is that I give an absolutely unwavering commitment to remain absolutely focused on that objective. And part of what the Child Poverty Delivery Plan represents is a whole-of-government approach to tackling child poverty. So it's not a compartmentalised approach. It's not just about benefit payments. It's about employment, it's about housing, it's about childcare, it's about financial support to families, it's about income maximisation, it's about tackling some of the underlying causes of poverty. So what I can offer is that cohesive all-of-government approach to make sure that no stone is left unturned in our efforts to eradicate child poverty. Katrine Bussey. Katrine.
Good morning, First Minister. Your document today sets out action you say your government will take to pursue an independence referendum after May 7th, including a vote on the first sitting day of Parliament on the development of a Section 30 order. What do you do when Westminster refuses that? Because that is in their power.
Well, the key point here is about respecting the democratic wishes of the people of Scotland. And we're at a point where I've set out very clearly the mechanism that I think can unlock the constitutional logjam we have in Scotland. That's the election of a majority SNP government, and we will use that majority to give political leadership in the Scottish Parliament to securing a referendum on independence. And it just is quite simply unacceptable for a UK government to be impervious to the democratic wishes of the people of Scotland. And the precedent that was established in 2011 of the election of an SNP majority leading to a referendum is the precedent I intend to repeat on the 7th of May and make sure that people in Scotland have their democratic right to choose their own future, because this issue should be in the hands of the people of Scotland. Gina Davidson of LBC. Gina.
Good morning, First Minister. See, in your first 100 days, you're talking about speaking to the UK government about their plans on a ban on conversion practices, and if they're not doing it, to bring forward your own bill on that. And I just wonder, your track record as a government on these issues has not been great in terms of getting legislation, workable legislation, through and onto the statute books. How would you ensure that this particular bill won't fall foul of the same issues that you experienced around named persons, the GRR, when it comes to parental rights, you know, freedom of speech, religious liberties, therapy, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think obviously this is a very delicate issue of legislation that's got to be handled, because all of the issues that you raise there are important aspects to be developed. That's why we go through the process of dialogue and engagement with the United Kingdom Government on their plans, and why we will take forward the legislation on our own stead, should the UK Government not be pursuing that. But fundamentally, our approach relies upon good engagement, the understanding of complex issues. We went through as a government intense scrutiny and dialogue around very complex issues such as the hate crime legislation, which enabled us to get effective legislation on the statute book, and I commit myself to making sure that our dialogue and our engagement is comprehensive to ensure that our legislation is effective and sustainable and delivers the purpose for which it's been established. Can I come to Susanna Blair, please, EFE News? Susanna.
First Minister, if your priority is supporting people, why push for a referendum in 2028 given the current economic pressures?
Could you just say that again, Susanna? I didn't quite catch the detail, please.
Yeah. Why push for a referendum in 2028 given the current economic pressures right now with the cost of living crisis?
Well, I think that makes my point. The necessity and the urgency of Scotland being independent is demonstrated by the fact that we are facing, and if we listen to the Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister on television yesterday, are likely to face for some sustained period of time acute cost of living pressures. And the Westminster Government is doing nothing, literally doing nothing. They have the powers, the scope, the financial flexibility to come to the aid of members of the public today, and they're not doing that. So I think that makes the case for Scotland to be an independent country and to have those decision-making powers in our hands at the earliest possible opportunity to enable us to act in that fashion. I'll come now to print media. Andrew Lermouth from the Herald. Andrew.
Thanks, First Minister. Just on the Section 30 vote on day one of the new government, I take it if the SNP don't win the majority, then that vote won't happen. But if another party was to come forward with that vote, how would your MSPs vote on that? And if I may, just on the GP walk-in clinics, we've seen some criticism from the BMA over the weekend, patients having to wait 6 hours for an appointment. BMA has said there's no evidence they reduce pressure on GP practices, out-of-hours services or emergency departments. Is this really the best use of resources?
On the Section 30 order, I'm setting out the propositions of the SNP, and throughout this election campaign I've made it my business to make sure that I set out proactively, positively, the ideas and the commitments of the Scottish National Party, and that's what we'll pursue. And I want people to understand that's what's going to be part of the SNP agenda within our first 100 days. On the issue of GP walk-in clinics, the average wait is 38 minutes. That's what the data tells me. There may be cases that are more complex than others, and these things can't be rushed. But if there are, the average waiting time is 38 minutes, and we are now seeing individuals being seen in these clinics and the benefits of that, because obviously if those individuals are coming to the GP walk-in clinics because they've been unable to access other GP services. So that expansion of capacity alone is a helpful intervention in supporting members of the public to access healthcare in a fashion that works for them and in a way that makes sure that they are not presenting at other stages in our healthcare system that can contribute to some of the congestion and challenge that we face within our healthcare system. So I'm confident the GP walk-in clinics are a good way of tackling the ATM rush and relieving pressure on GP services, and as I set out in my comments, we'll roll out further stages of the programme in the first 100 days of an SNP government. Can I come to Chris McCall, please, from the Daily Record? Chris.
Hi, good morning, First Minister. One of the SNP's election candidates, Fulton McGregor, has talked of his disappointment that a conference commitment to introduce a kindergarten system for younger children was not included in the SNP's manifesto. Can I ask if you support the reform of early years learning more broadly and kindergarten specifically? And also, if I may, just a very quick second question. Can I ask whether the residents of Coatbridge and Airdrie can look forward to a new hospital being built during the next Holyrood term, or has that project been pushed further back?
Okay, on the first point about the kindergarten approach, Fulton McGregor's got a tremendous track record of arguing for this policy approach, and I've got a lot of sympathy with the policy approach. I think when I observe the approach that's taken to early learning and childcare and the deployment of the play-based curriculum in Scottish education, principally in primaries 1 and 2, I see a lot of elements of the kindergarten system within that play-based curriculum. So I think a lot of children would see a lot of constancy between what they experience in early learning and childcare in terms of the style and structure of education into the primary curriculum, the play-based curriculum. So it's, you know, I would love to be able to put every policy proposition forward that comes to us, but I have to look at what's able to be deployed in a reasonable period of time, which is why our policy commitments are as they are. But I think there can be those arguing for the kindergarten approach should take a lot of confidence from the play-based curriculum that we have in primary 1 and 2. In relation to Monklands Hospital, let me just give the absolute categoric assurance that the Monklands Hospital is going to be built. I went the other day there to see the work that's already underway on the site to develop the site for it being constructed, and that will happen during the next parliamentary term under an SNP government. David Ball, the Scotsman. David.
Oh, thank you, First Minister. On independence, it's been pointed out that the Labour government has already said they will kind of block your plans. You've talked a lot about a precedent on the first SNP majority. Do you believe that you'd have sort of a legal case, potentially in the courts, to hold that precedent against the Labour government if they did try to stand in your way?
I think the precedent argument is fundamental, David. I think it is a representation of a set of events that have happened and which led to a particular conclusion, which was the holding of an agreed referendum on Scotland's constitutional future. So I think that is an incredibly powerful foundation to our argument. And that's why I led this debate in the SNP, to make sure that we have a practical, tangible means of breaking the logjam. But it only happens if there is an emphatic SNP win by the election of a majority of SNP MSPs. And my message to people in Scotland who are independent supporters is that I'm offering a pathway for Scotland to have a choice to become independent. And it has to be a choice of the people of Scotland. And I would encourage any independent supporter in Scotland to vote for the SNP to make sure that happens. Can I come to Simon Johnson from the Telegraph?
Thank you, First Minister. I'm just looking for some clarification, really, on the independent steps you'll take in the first 100 days. It's not 100% clear from the document whether those steps, including the bill, etc., are contingent on the SNP winning a majority, or is it something you're going to do whatever the result is? Because the second option might look like you're changing the goalposts a bit. I think I've just probably answered that question with David, but for absolute clarity, I'm setting out the arguments for people to vote SNP, and I want people to vote SNP to give us an overall majority so that we can get on with this agenda to apply the precedent of 2014, which gives us the reliable mechanism of ensuring Scotland has a choice about our constitutional future. So that's my appeal to the people of Scotland in this election. Vote for the SNP emphatically, and let's get on with giving people in Scotland the choice about their future. Well, I'm simply saying to people in Scotland, vote for the SNP, give us a majority, and this is what we'll get on with doing. I'm simply saying to people, vote for the SNP and let's get on with it, and we'll give Scotland a choice over her future. Dan Sanderson from the Times.
Thanks, First Minister. Sorry, I'm just still not entirely clear on the independence stuff. You've obviously been clear about the majority, but this document talks about, you guys forming a government, it doesn't mention a majority government. So could you just give a really clear yes or no answer? If you fall short of a majority, but still form the next government, will the actions you've set out here happen or not?
Well, forgive me for sticking to my pitch that I want the people of Scotland to give us a majority on the 7th of May, and that's what our election campaign is all about. Mark McLaughlin, Sun.
Good morning. You said earlier that child poverty is your top priority, but on day one you're going to have a debate about Scottish independence. So why not make child poverty the very first debate you have? I understand that you believe independence is necessary to tackle child poverty, but why not debate it on those contexts rather than independence? I also didn't hear an answer to David's question about whether you would litigate the precedent argument. Do you believe that this precedent can be pressed in court, or is it just going to be more political pressure?
Okay, on the first point about child poverty, I think my most severe critic would probably accept that I have focused government on ensuring we are effective in tackling child poverty, and it's demonstrated by the statistics, because child poverty is much lower in Scotland than it is in the rest of the United Kingdom. But so we have that focus. It's there in the child poverty delivery plan. But my contention is that Scotland's ability to eradicate child poverty would be turbocharged by the powers of independence, because we could take the full power of being an independent country to deploy that in ensuring that we are successful in our efforts to eradicate child poverty. So that lies at the very, very heart of the connection. And I said this in wider debate over the course of the last couple of years. We had to relate independence directly to the living experience of people in Scotland, and the eradication of child poverty is a perfect example of exactly that. And then on the question of litigation, nobody has to consider litigation if we just respect the precedent that was designed and created in 2011, which was an outright SNP majority led to a referendum on independence, and that gave us the ability to take Scotland's future into Scotland's hands, and that's what I want to make sure is the case. And, well, there's no need for that if we have a respect for the democratic wishes of the people of Scotland. Tom Gordon from Daily Mail. Tom.
Thank you, First Minister. Can I just understand this? Are you saying that if you don't get a majority, this document is null and void? You have no plan for the first 100 days?
Well, I've got a manifesto to deliver, and this is my 100 days commitments, and that's what we're going to get on with doing.
Is it predicated on a majority government or simply an SNP government of some size?
Well, I'm simply appealing to the people of Scotland to give me a majority.
See, that's a junk answer. That doesn't really answer the question.
It's a very, very good answer. It's just because it's a very, very good answer.
Well, it's an evasive formulation is what it is. Can you also tell us what your draft referendum bill, in what regard will it be different from the 2016 draft referendum bill that came to nothing, or the 2021 draft referendum bill that came to nothing, and who is going to join this constitutional convention?
Okay, well, on the Constitutional Convention, I want to make sure that there's broad participation in the policy debates about the future of Scotland, and organisations from across society will be invited to participate within it. Now, on the question about the significance of the independence referendum bill, it comes back to my earlier answer. The precedent was established in 2014 of the election of a majority SNP government, and that resulted in a referendum on the constitutional question. And the legislative framework to deliver that is one that I want to pursue as a priority in the Scottish Government, to make sure that Scotland's future is in Scotland's hands, to enable us to tackle the very significant issues that members of the public face in Scotland today. Can I come to Sev Carell at The Guardian, please?
Good morning, First Minister. Thank you. Can we just come back to the question of energy policy again, please? In this document, you're making two statements. You're talking about formally requesting immediate powers, so people won't have to wait for independence to reduce energy bills. And then the following page, you're talking about, with independence, we can cut household electricity bills by over a third and create energy savings for businesses of at least one third. Now, you have repeatedly criticised the UK Labour government for promising a £300 cut in energy bills in this term of the Parliament, which they haven't delivered. You've set out no mechanisms for any of these pledges, and in fact one of them is also arguably evasive, because you're saying with independence we can, you're not saying we will. What are the mechanisms for firstly cutting energy bills under devolution, and secondly for cutting energy bills by a third with independence?
Well, in relation to policies able to be undertaken under devolution, that requires the devolution of energy responsibilities so that we can exercise those powers. And there are a range of different things that we could do. we've set out a number of calls to the United Kingdom Government for them to act, which they have studiously ignored as people face the challenges that they face. So my argument is to say to people, if you want to make sure that Scotland has got the ability to tackle the energy cost of living crisis that people are facing, make sure the powers are available to the Scottish Government to enable us to take those decisions in response to the challenges that people face. And then secondly, on independence, the whole energy argument relates to how the resources of Scotland are utilised. We are currently generating more renewable energy than we require. We are generating 2.5 times the gas that we require in Scotland. That is an asset for Scotland that is not resulting in lower prices for people in Scotland. So the opportunity exists to use that wealth to make sure that benefits the people of Scotland, and that's the opportunity of independence. Well, it's about the exercise of power over energy policy, all of which sits in the hands of the UK Government just now, none of which has been exercised by the UK Government to help consumers in Scotland. Finally, Simeon Kerr of the Financial Times. Simeon.
Thank you, First Minister. I think it's fair to say that under your leadership, you've sought to reset relations with the business community and persuade them that you're focusing on economic growth. However, with the manifesto, the commitment to price curbs at supermarkets, that's been widely rejected by industry. And then in the first 100 days, apart from a bus fare cap, which would be, I'm sure would be welcomed, business will look at this prospectus and think, well, you've actually turned your back on business once again. Thanks.
Well, I think the manifesto that I set out a couple of weeks ago contained a range of different proposals around the way in which we would accelerate and indeed, I think actually, if I recall correctly, I used the word accelerate the measures in relation to economic growth in the comments that I made to the manifesto launch. And that's about making sure Scotland is ready and able to take forward the steps to attract investment and to get our decisions in place to support growth. Now, the 100 Days document contains a whole range of different measures, starting the work on early learning and childcare, which will help business, the steps that have been taken in relation to affordable travel to make sure people are able to get into employment so we can tackle some of the shortages that are existing within different employers, and focusing government on making sure that we deliver greater economic opportunities for Scotland. So that will be, that agenda that I set out in our manifesto is a comprehensive agenda designed to ensure that Scotland is able to prosper under an SNP government, and it will have, and this document today gives a focus to the immediate steps that we are taking in the first 100 days. And on the question of the food price caps, I've seen a lot said and written about the food price cap. What's in my mind is I want to deliver a practical intervention that will help people who today are absolutely struggling. And that's what people need to hear from political leaders in this election. I'm offering it. I'm offering that leadership to help people who are facing the hardest of hard times just now. And these proposals will be well worked out. They'll be worked out by engagement with all interested and relevant parties to make sure we've got good deliverable proposals. But what I will always do is take the action necessary to help people who are facing tough times. That's what you get